Okay, this is the final business account document or financial information document. This is the balance sheet. So again, this is a form of internal financial control. So with that balance sheet, we need to understand what a balance sheet is, and also a cash flow statement I will put on at the end. Explain the purpose of the balance sheet and the cash flow statement, and if we can, get it into some sort of scenario. So first and foremost, particularly looking at a balance sheet, what we need to understand is all about what an organisation owns or owes. Okay, so if we look at these things, so wages, for example, they will owe the wages to their workers. Rent, they will owe it to whoever they're renting off. Stock, they will own. Machinery, they will own. Vehicles, they will own. Stationery, they will own. Right. So for the balance sheet, it's all about balancing up between what an organisation owns and what an organisation owes. And these are known as asset. If they own it, it's an asset. If they owe it, it's a liability. That's a bit more technical. So in doing this, they can therefore see what they own, what their assets are against what their liabilities are. Okay, and within their liabilities, this also shows how much money that they borrowed as well. And it gives them a snapshot at any one point in time of where they are in terms of their assets and their liabilities. And from this point, it gives an indication as to what a company or what an organisation is worth. And from this point of view, this is always the first place that people will look should they wish to consider purchasing a company. So there's some key things that we need to just basically be familiar with in terms of the terminology that we use here. So as we mentioned, those things that are owned are referred to as assets. Now, over a long period of time, fixed assets, shorter time, current assets. So fixed assets would maybe things like buildings, vehicles. Shorter period of time, it could be things such as materials that they're going to make into products, or even cash, for example. Things owed by a company over a long period of time, long-term liabilities over a short period of time, current liabilities. So money they own over a long period of time would be maybe a mortgage, okay, mortgage on a factory or something like that. Short period of time, it could be an overdraft. It could be a very quick form of a loan that they tend to pay back within 3 months. Okay, so it's important to understand these terms. So as mentioned before, okay, so we have 3 parts in a balance sheet. We have everything labelled down as to what they owe. Sorry, what they own. It's an asset, a fixed asset over a long period of time. Current asset short. Likewise, liabilities over a long period of time what they owe, short period of time what they owe. And then also this introduces a new concept of the whole idea of capital. This is what the money that's been put into the business. Now this could be money in the form of a liability, possibly. Sometimes long-term liabilities also come in under capital, but also it could be the money which has been given to the business, the startup money. And this is very often money that the owners have put in or investors have put in. So it's usually these 2 things together, our liabilities and our capital, should hopefully worked out to be the same as what our assets are. And that's the whole idea of where our balance comes from. So what we tend to find is current net assets. Okay, now it's an understanding that from a short period of time, you need to know where the company's position are. Do we have more? Do we owe more things than we own, and vice versa? They're very important because they finance the day-to-day running costs of an organisation. So it's very important to know what they have on a day-to-day basis, and particularly if, for whatever reason, at that one moment in time, they have to wind the company up, do they have enough money at their disposal to be able to pay back their liabilities? So therefore, in summary, what our balance sheet shows us, and what we need to be aware of, is a company's position at any moment in time comparing what they owe as opposed to what they own. And largely this position will also give an indication as to how much money has been put into the organisation in the first place. And all this information together should give us a figure as to that level of assets against liabilities. And that is the figure they will start off with to start negotiating companies to be sold. And the final document we just need to be familiar with is our cash flow forecasting. So this is like a reverse budget, whereas a budget looks at our costs, how much we pay out from certain costing areas. This works the other way around. So from cash flow forecasting, it's all about forecasting how much cash we will be receiving as an organisation. Now, this is a very significant document as well, because once again, it's a form of control. It's a form of what we can expect to receive, and from that, further decisions are made. But also the significance of cash, not just revenue in different forms, but cash. Cash ensures it is the most effective asset a business can have, because with cash, you don't have to turn it into anything else. It's what we refer to as a liquid asset. So if you have cash, you can pay your suppliers immediately. Now that might sound obvious. A lot of organisations, what they have is they have a lot of finance tied up in other assets. They could be tied up in vehicles, in machines, in computer systems, which all need to be sold to turn into cash to be able to pay suppliers. So this is why cash flow specifically is very important. So keep an eye on how it is being used in the organisation. So it's important that we've got sufficient amounts of cash at certain times. The whole idea is really that you've got a sufficient amount of cash to be able to cover times when you know suppliers are going to need to be paid, the tax bills need to be paid, etc., etc. So it's important that a business can pay off its debts when necessary, because if debts aren't paid, that is when it can lead to further issues. Okay, so it could be that a company is very effective on paper, it's very profitable, the idea is amazing, the advertising is brilliant, customers are jumping up and down to get hold of the product, but if there's not enough cash available to pay off its debts at the right time, that company will not survive. So they need to plan and allow for times when it has, particularly when it has less ready cash to pay the debt. It's as if they're putting a little bit aside to make sure they're covering those times. So really, the cash flow forecast is an idea of setting out across a monthly or weekly time frame as to when they can anticipate big costs have to be paid, and therefore they can have that stockpile of cash at the right time. Likewise, on reverse, they do not want to be having too much holding too much cash at times when they don't need it, because that cash can be used to buy equipment, machinery, which can be used to develop more revenue. Okay, so really the problem could be is that cash is required at a time when bills and debts have to be met, and this can sometimes come as a bit of a surprise. So there are ways in which you can improve your cash flow. Maybe arrange an overdraft, lease rather than purchase equipment, so you're not making a one big purchase, but you know incrementally cash can be used that way. Encouraging your customers to be paying more promptly, maybe give them a little bit of a discount if they pay quicker. Arrange credit with your suppliers. Keeping capital in the business by postponing the purchasing of equipment. So try to put off the whole idea of making that big purchase. Reducing stock levels, using maybe just-in-time techniques, as we've looked at in the past. So these could be all ways in which you are improving your